Beauty and the Beast summer road trip has been rerouted so we could catch the Stillwater show. Woo!
Yeah.
All summer long, we'll be having full spoiler discussions revolving around destination-adjacent films. Those spoilers will not crash and burn, and instead will successfully arrive at their destination. If you like what we do, please like and follow or join the discussion in the comments or at our Discord. A full list of services we're available on can be found at beardyandthebeast.com. As always, my name is Drew, and he's been kissing. I can tell. Devin?
Maybe.
Today we'll be discussing 2000's comedy drama, Almost Famous, untitled/bootleg cut. So Dev, was it a house of lies? Or was it honest and unmerciful?
I think this movie is honest and unmerciful. This is, once again, one of my favorite films. It is right up there with several of the others that I've subjected you to. Requiem and Lost in Translation. It's always a pleasure to go back and watch it.
Now, I haven't seen Almost Famous, so watching the self-indulgent untitled cut as my first experience was probably the wrong choice. I wanted to like it, but it was an hour too long. I feel like I've been Schneider cut.
See, I'm actually not sure if I've ever watched the original one. I think I've always watched Untitled. So I don't even know if I could begin on knowing what fully has been cut. Like, I think one of the scenes that was cut was like the tiny dancer scene, which is one of my favorite scenes.
I mean, a good scene,
but I'm not sure. Yeah.
But not. Let's just say I could see where you could cut an hour of the film.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying the film itself is bad. There's a lot of redeeming qualities, but I think it loses focus a lot. A lot of what we saw was just like, oh, we need to go to the next location, and then it was the same set of events that occurred again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
And like a lot of weird like outside stuff. I feel like this was not a case of like no scene wasted. And that's why I kind of say like it began to feel self-indulgent. What's the best way to put it? At 2 hours, it felt like the longest movie I've ever watched. And then at the end, it felt like the shortest 3-hour movie I've ever seen.
I like that. That's a really interesting way to say that, actually. And I can understand that. I think so. A few things with this. I mean, it is autobiographical, a bit. So it's probably where that little bit of self-indulgent aspect that you speak of kind of comes in. Again, because I'm not sure of like what was removed, so it's hard to speak on specifically. But just using that, the longest 2-hour movie to the shortest 3-hour movie there, I think there's kind of like there's almost like a mini climax around that part, because that around that 2-hour mark is shortly after the the acid trip and tiny dancer thing, where there is kind of a climax aspect to it. So I wonder if that part of the pacing affects that.
I guess that's a good way to put it, like using the term pacing. Like the focus it lost in the middle was pacing. That's where the individual storylines became muddy. And though like an experience when you're on the road for so long, things do become muddy, I don't think it expressed that naturally at the middle. In the entirety, that's a different thing. The end result is different because I started enjoying it, ended enjoying it, but
Yeah,
I didn't.
there's just a little bit.
So that's something that I felt in the middle, because there was like, you had your various storylines going on.
Yeah.
Like, was it trying to shed a light on this rock world of what it is to be real versus what it is to sell out? Is it about a boy finding himself in love? Is it like the self-actualization of a woman, right? And or this relationship between this guitarist and this woman, like this love triangle that's going on. And I feel in the middle that instead of being able to see the individual storylines, it gets jumbled up in a way that's undecipherable. And you kind of have to come out the other side, and then you go, oh, I see it.
I'm going to compare this a little bit to Lost in Translation. While I think Lost in Translation is a lot more heavily focused on the emotional beat, and this one here does have a bit more of a through line going through it. I do feel a lot of it is still, I get focused on the emotions, so the muddling of the emotions in the middle to me kind of works, because it's at this time here that we're also learning about the muddling of the emotions in the band, and the film kind of keeps that aspect going. Right, the confusion that's happening, the issues that Penny is having and William's experiencing, everything, it is muddled. And I think that I just kind of lump onto that emotion and get lost in the world of everything that's happening.
Yeah, you get kind of carried away by that whirlwind, right?
Yeah.
And sure, I could see them using various techniques to kind of make it feel like to pull you along, to put you into the eyes of William and make you feel like you're being lost in that whirlwind.
Yeah.
But I hate to say the trail of William wasn't quite neutral mask, but it also wasn't quite sophisticated. It wasn't nuanced.
Yeah.
There was really only like 3 modes that he had, and they were all very similar.
Yeah, that's accurate.
And especially when, and I found this was kind of a shame, because Penny Lane, like, now that's an interesting character. You don't know what's kind of going on. There's a mystery about her. Like, this is something that I thought was portrayed very well. I was sitting here and I'm like, geez, like, if I had seen this in 2000, like, dang, I would have a crush. Like, this would be my go.
Yeah.
But it's like, and everything they presented down to her, like, and I don't mean this as a negative way, but she has an odd or a unique face. But that draws you in even more. And I feel like the cinematography aspect of it, they've really capitalized on that, especially how they presented her specifically.
Yes. I mean, she's got that. I love Kate Hudson. I mean, definitely has that. I don't know. Her mom had that similar type look too, like Goldie Hawn, right? So, I don't know, I think she captures the role very well. She adds that bit of allure.
It was definitely the right choice in casting. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. But one of the funniest things, like, just we're kind of talking about the casting. Is it weird that Zooey Deschanel wasn't the Manic Pixie Dream Girl?
That's funny.
And that's yeah. And that's the thing too. Like, she's actually a really interesting take on the Manic Pixie Dream Girl. Like, because most of them never have that realism. So we look at, Ramona Flowers, just as an example. Any character Zoe Deschanel's ever played, except for Anita here.
Mm.
But they always stay in that pixie realm. This one, like, I never found that Penny Lane was fully there. There was always a bit of grounding, even in her aloofness.
Well, it seemed to me that this world she was putting herself in was more about escapism. It made you feel like, what are you running away from?
Yeah.
And I mean, they set that up throughout the entire story. Like everybody trying to run away from this overbearing mom. And then you encounter this character who's your Manic Pixie Dream Girl, and she doesn't seem quite into it, but she doesn't want to leave.
Yeah. Well, next thing, I think there's a lot of things that kind of point to that emotion. It's like, I think she's one of those characters that really and truly is very loving and gives everything there for her.
Mm-hmm.
But like it was said by several of the characters, most notably, all I can think is Nancy, and I know that's not her name in this movie. And I keep forgetting it. Sapphire. Like she says, it's like, okay, so you're giving all of this love, and what are you getting, right? Like, who's returning it? And there's just like the idea of there's going to be all of these men that love you, that you're going to make fall in love with you, and luckily at least one of them was good enough to be there to save you.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's that she foils, she mirrors William nicely. They both have a naivety that we get to experience this world with.
I wonder about her character. I couldn't get my hand off it, but for like the first half of the film, I thought she was their drug dealer. Because she always had this little tackle box that she was carrying around, and it's like, what's that about, right? And they never reveal, and I'm like, she keeps going in, and everybody say the whole joke, it's like, oh, I'm retired. It's like, no, you're not, kind of situation.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, she's the drug peddler to the stars.
See, I always thought of that again as just going back to like Tiny Dancer and using the lyrics of that. I always thought it was kind of the seamstress for the band type thing. It was that here's the things that you need to fix something, or it's your cosplay emergency kit. Is what I always thought it was.
Okay, the one time I cosplayed, the cosplay emergency kit was the person standing next to me, so I never had to worry.
Yeah. I have a lot of friends who do a lot of cosplay.
And she definitely wasn't my Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
Oh yeah.
But it was so weird though, like seeing Anna Paquin again when we had seen her so recently in such an innocent form.
Told you she was coming back.
And then like to shouting, let's deflower the kid.
Yep.
Last movie we watched, she was the kid.
Right? Well, you see, she touched one of the other groupies and gained their powers.
Oh jeez.
She turned into a groupie herself.
I think you mean a Band-Aid.
No, she could have touched a groupie first. But even with that, like, Anna Paquin still has like this innocence about her.
Yeah.
It's like, let's deflower the kid, but it was like such a, I don't know, just playful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because that's actually a relationship that I think would be interesting to see, because she was clearly interested in William.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right? And just never really got to play with it, but I mean,
that's
the movie isn't more about Penny in that way.
I mean, if you're going to expand a movie by an hour,
Hmm.
that's what you go with.
Yeah.
Just like the sister's ex-boyfriend sneaking into the room and then having like a 5-minute conversation with William.
Yeah, that scene could have gone.
Yeah. Cut that entire scene.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's definitely odd. I think you want to know, I think Penny Lane worked so well with that Manic Pixie Dream Girl while still being real.
Mm.
You know, at the end of movies, it says all, this is all fictitious. Anything, any similarities, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
This one here said it's like, except for Penny. Yeah, she's based on a real person. So I think that adds a lot to the character.
Honestly, though, like, you see movies like this and you romanticize that type of person. But I'm going to use the word involved, but not like an intense relationship situation. Just like I've been involved with the Manic Pixie Dream Girl, and it's actually not that appealing when you're in it.
No. Yeah, that's what I've heard. I think I want to say 500 Days of Summer, I think, explored that. I think that was the whole premise of it.
Yeah. I'm just saying, Kim Pines over over flowers. Pines over flowers. But that being said, Flowers wasn't really a Pixie Dream Girl. More like embodiment of that style of like post-Gen X sarcasm.
Yes and no. Like, definitely that post-Gen X sarcasm is a big part of Ramona Flowers. But in the context of Scott Pilgrim, she's 100% just the Manic Pixie Dream Girl. He has no connection to her whatsoever. There's a reason why in the comics he ends up with knives.
Well, it's a thing. She's not manic.
Yeah, it's...
So she's okay, she's our cynical Pixie Dream Girl.
Yeah, I think the manic is meant to be more of the... Well, most of the time it's the character being manic. I think it's her influence is such a shakeup for the protagonist that it might as well be a manic feeling.
Oh man, one of these days I wouldn't mind tearing down Scott Pilgrim.
It's such a good movie.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Anyways, one of the things that I would have really liked to explore more was the writer side of things. Aside from the whole keep trying to get the interview situation, I felt like that particular storyline was lost the most, and it seems so integral at the beginning to discover the truth about this band. And there wasn't really that many hard truths. Like, I think the one set of things that I would have liked to have seen is him seeing all the ways that the lifestyle is like that he was warned about, and intentionally shrugging them off out of romanticization of the lifestyle. but I felt like that storyline was quite lost. And with a 3-hour movie, there was a lot of time that we could have more aptly explored that.
So, I mean, I don't think he doesn't lose the romanticism until he sees how they treated Penny. Just the $50 and a case of beer. I mean, I think he was definitely more grown up than the band, especially Russell, at the house party and such. But the thing is, he's a 15-year-old kid, literally, following in his sister's footsteps in a few ways, kind of living his dream, and falling for absolutely everything that what's the character name? All I can think is Philip Seymour Hoffman. Everything he's saying, he just Lester Banning's right, fell into everything that he was warned about. And he needed that wake-up call. I don't think it was that he never shied away from the writing aspect. It's just that was never what he was questioning doing. So it was more of a catalyst as opposed to a plot point.
I just think that following that line of things could have filled out the movie where it became more directionless and began to feel like stale. Because we at the time we had plenty of like the issues of relationship, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, that entire thing spans from like 20 minutes of the film to the end of the film. I just really think I actually think I would have enjoyed this film much better if I watched the regular version. Unless it's bad.
I believe it is good. I've just honestly can't say if I've ever seen the regular one.
Well, it's one of those things like so sometimes the extended version is just plainly better. Lord of the Rings, for example.
Yeah.
It's super interesting because when my different thought patterns while I was watching the film, it was really strange. Like I went from liking to disliking to liking the film again. And when was it like 45 minutes into the film, I'm sitting here and I'm like, this movie like could be generation defining. This could be like your Breakfast Club, right?
Yeah.
To the middle where I'm like, this is chaos, this is a mess. The story doesn't make sense. I'm lost here and all I want to do is like fiddle with my phone. Back to the end where I was like, oh, Penny, you clever girl.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, this is one of those things like where it's basically like I had the similar thoughts like when I had you watch Lost in Translation. It's like, this is one of my favorite movies. And I know Drew is going to go, it's okay.
Didn't I really like Lost in Translation?
You surprised me with that one a bit.
Average shonen enjoyer likes Lost in Translation.
Yeah. But it's one of those ones where it's like I kind of knew it'd be on that cusp, and like as I'm watching, it's like this one's probably just that little bit longer. You're expressing what I figured you would be expressing. As we get into it more.
Which is funny because like it's weird like that because some of my favorite movies star Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
But like his drama stuff is really good, right?
Mm.
Um, or like Brad Pitt, like Meet Joe Black was such a wonderful movie. But when you think about this, like there's definitely a through line where you're like, yeah, Devin with like Almost Famous and Drew with like Meet Joe Black.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not that surprising. I think a lot of this film, I mean, so I guess there's that little bit of indie aspect to it, which is kind of weird when you see other films that Cameron Crowe's done, of course, like Jerry Maguire and such.
You know what's funny?
What?
Matt Damon was in a movie named Stillwater. Also, best movie of all time is Good Will Hunting.
Hmm.
That's a Drew answer right there. you would expect me to say something like that.
You talk about genre defining. I mean, that's something that he is kind of done. He did write like Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Well, that's so the way that it was carried. So like we're talking about Crow, right?
Yeah.
I mean, some of our highlights: Almost Famous, Jerry Maguire, Vanilla Sky. Yeah, Fast Times.
Yeah.
We bought a zoo. Why does that feel so out of place?
But, wow, that really does.
Yeah. But so I think that's where I get a lot of feeling about this film. Like a lot of there's two failings to the film, and I've expressed them already.
Yeah.
So the portrayal of William, I did not think was nuanced and sophisticated, and then I had issues with the middle hour of the film. Yeah. I'll say. However, when you take those out, I mean, the feeling I got was, yeah, this could be generation defining, defining like Fast Times, and a lot of that comes down to, I think, the skills in the directing and cinematography. The shot choices, however, too many of them, were always correct, in my opinion.
Yes.
Not, and it's not even, and I'm not even saying this as someone who's ever directed anything. Obviously, I would probably be a terrible director. But there's nothing weird in the film. Every choice that they do, every like over the shoulder or panning shot or like something that might seem odd in another film was correctly portrayed in this, and there was nothing that brought you out of it.
Yeah.
It literally took my biggest gripe about the film to pull me out of it.
Yeah.
And other than that, I was fully absorbed, hence the longest 2 hour, or was it longest film I've ever seen at 2 hours and the shortest 3 hour film I've seen.
Well, that's the thing. So, we normally talk about like the no shot wasted from the efficiency.
Yeah, efficiency in writing.
Yeah, the efficiency in writing. This film to me always had that no shot wasted from an artistic standpoint. Like,
okay.
It's you can see exactly why. Like, this is just building on what you said. You can tell exactly the shots all felt right.
Mm-hmm.
All flowed properly. I can't imagine any of these shots being done any differently, with any of the music done any differently. Like, just the way the music is there in the panning shot every time you had a B-roll shot of the bus driving out in the sunset or the night sky or something. It's just all, it always felt like exactly what this shot should look like.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, it's interesting is like, just from what you were saying, like that artistic integrity can keep you enthralled. like you said, it took something big to really pull you out of it.
And here's the thing, and just to expand upon that, when I was getting lost because of the story and the writing, I wanted to fiddle with my phone, but it wasn't just the fact that I was watching it because we were doing a recording. I was also like still visually engaged.
Yeah.
And that's important too.
I think the visual engaging, and I think the music is done very well. Like it's
except for chipmunks.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, that was like the only thing like that. And it was Christmas time, so
you know what? I was both stoked and worried.
Yeah.
Because we both know how much I like a soundtrack movie.
Yes.
And it came into this, and I'm like, oh, I gotta, this is gonna be a rock. This is gonna be a rock and roll. There's gonna be so many bangers. They do chipmunks. I get pulled. I'm like, what? What is this? And then I'm like, no. Can't wait for it. But then I'm like, unless it's a musical or whatever it is Disney does, Devin's not really into the soundtrack movie. Like, he's not like me. He's not gonna watch Romeo Must Die like 7 times.
Rippleia.
So I was both stoked and worried, like what kind of ride I was about to get in.
Yeah. And your thoughts from the soundtrack movie standpoint?
Wasn't at all. Everything flowed so well, and it was balanced well, especially the audio levels.
Yes.
So unless it was a concert scene, things were. It was more like a restaurant before it's busy.
Yeah.
Where where
I like that.
You can talk comfortably, and the interpersonal chaos is occurring, and then it's just enhanced by that underlying music.
Yeah. And like the soundtrack is amazing. I used to listen to that soundtrack on repeat. There's a lot of good music in there, but it's for a movie about a band, it's not about the soundtrack, as you said, and it's very clear what it is. So like you get the music kind of is that they play with the levels very well. It's like, yep, they play with the song, and then it just becomes the background as they're talking over it. Restaurant, perfect way to describe that. And then there's just, again, those few scenes that just stand out with how they do it. So once again, Tiny Dancer, I will always bring up that scene because I think, I don't know, it's just a powerful scene. But it starts out the exact opposite of most of it, where it's just kind of there in the background, and then everyone's just singing it. And that healing power that comes with that. And then the other scene that really did it for me, these are 2 scenes that just live rent free in my head, is the scene with Penny Lane just dancing with a rose after that concert to Cat Stevens. And it's like, the music just does everything you need, and I think it, again, the shot choices just do exactly what they need. And because we had this whole underlying rock throughout the entire thing, it really, really, you really feel the effect of how well they did that music when Penny finds out from the new manager that she's not going with the band anymore. Right? Just like the music just completely cutting out. It was palpable.
Yeah. And probably your biggest emotional cue during the entire film, and it was done so perfectly. Unfortunately, it ended up being contrasted against William's little tantrum afterwards that I'm sorry, didn't really acting wise carry emotional resonance, but that scene itself in isolation, powerful.
Yeah. I see exactly what you're saying with William's little tantrum, but I also, it's one of those things
it's like he got mad in a library.
Yeah, it's oh, but I could see, I don't know, it could be that scene never bothered me. I can see why it does, but I think the reason it doesn't is that scene actually resonates with me on like a deeper visceral level. And because I've had that fight with someone where it's because like Penny specifically says, it's like, oh, I just wish he was a little bit more like you.
Yeah.
And I've had that fight. It's like, no, I don't need to hear that. You want to know who's like me? Me. I'm like me. What the fuck is wrong with you? And I've had that blow up. So I think there's just this resonance there. That lets me get past it and then go, it's like, yeah, I guess it's just a little 15-year-old boy. And it has that like 15-year-old boy anger behind it. That for me, it's just like, this works in a way that it shouldn't. But honestly, part of that could also be like Kate Hudson's reactions to it.
What kind of beer, though?
Yeah, exactly. Right? Just like that, like you can tell her like she's putting on that brave face and not letting it bother her. And it's like the only place that she allows herself to be vulnerable is with William. Like, I mean, I hope that, maybe he did reach out to her afterwards. I think she cared for him much more deeply than she allowed herself to at that time. Until near the end.
Yeah. The thing that the movie carried very well for me, though, is it did express that teenage boy infatuation with this woman.
Yes.
And she could see it. And sure, she thought it was cute. But then again, she's an adult woman. And there's this 15-year-old that's pining after her.
It's one of those things where I don't know. We never actually know how old she is.
Which was worrisome in the beginning. Because she's like, they start at what, 18?
Yes.
They go down to 15, and she's like, yeah, I'm 15 too. Obviously, she was just reading the kid, but
yeah.
But then you hear like, oh yeah, she was with this band, and there was connotations to that from the past year, and you're like, is this gonna be one of them problematic movies I've heard about?
Well, it's just looking at something here. So she was, just from the actress standpoint, she was like, what, 30 when the movie came out? No, 20. Yeah, it was 2000. So yeah, she was 21 at the time of the movie. So she was, no, that's actually impressive. So I think that was about the same age as Anna Paquin. I honestly think she was only supposed to be like that 18, 19-year-old.
But that being said, like, I don't see what it illustrated to me in the movie is like, I didn't see a romantic ending between the two. I didn't see it ever actually occurring. Because though she would allow herself to be vulnerable around William, it was simply because he was honest, was not trying to use anybody, and was innocent, naive, and everybody could see it.
Yeah.
Even William knew. So that's what gave her the freedom to be vulnerable around him. He didn't, or she didn't, or he didn't want anything from her per se. And it even seemed to me that she was pushing him away as the film, like, not pushing him away, but distancing herself from him as the film continued, because as his infatuation grew.
Yes, but so first of all, the only proper ship here is William and Polexia.
Correct.
Right. This is just fact.
100% honest.
Yes.
100% true.
Yes. Now, with that being said, I do think that there is definitely a love between those two. I think she was, sorry, by those two, I'm meaning William and Penny.
Opposed to the objectively correct love.
Yes, of Polexia and William. It's I think there's this partial idea of the transcendence that we've talked about in other things again. I do think that, yes, Penny was 100% trying to push him away more and more as things went on. But she is kind of bad at it. But I think we've already established that escapism that she has. There is a reason for this, even if we never know what that reason is.
Well, it's the thing, like, she couldn't truly distance herself completely from him because he represented the only honest thing that was in her life.
Yes. And I think from William's side, it gets messy too, because there is so much about Penny Lane that is Anita. And so I think that's where things get confusing.
So what I think you're trying to say, let me explain this for you here.
Please do.
He became lost without his sister.
Yes.
And needed that role in his life. And the confusion here is he's obviously not romantically interested in his sister.
Yeah.
But there's something intrinsically about our Manic Pixie Dream Girl and her wistful ways that draw William in as if it's this fleeting dream that's about to leave. So, as his biggest influence in life, culturally, is his sister. Leaving, he draws that near. And because she semi-represents that, aside from the fact that she's very attractive and she speaks well and has a magnetic personality,
yes,
there is layers of romantic interest there, but I see what you're saying. It's
there's a reason why everyone loves her.
Well, it's kind of saying, of course, I'm probably guilty of this too. It's like a guy's first love when he leaves the nest will oftentimes have qualities or be something intrinsically like his mother. And it's not that he loves his mother in that way, it's that he needs that influence in his life still.
I don't think there was ever any familial bonds in that way. It helps. And I think it's represented very well that that aspect that we were supposed to be drawing that conclusion through the entire thing, like just those similarities and how it's what he needed, is what happens once he loses Penny.
Yeah. Which is interesting because he loses Penny and he gains his sister.
Yeah, exactly. I get the feeling that those two could be best of friends forever. she's I think she gets William. I think William gets her. And I do think they both love each other, but not in in that transcendental. In that
Transcendental?
Words. Yes.
Hey man, I was messing up earlier. You're forgiven.
Yeah. Well, it's like saying it one way is what I mean, and the other way has the exact opposite meaning.
So here's the thing. People make fun of people who have trouble pronouncing, like especially like larger syllable words. The thing that though is people with their nose stuck up in the air don't understand is people who have trouble pronouncing words like that learn the words from reading them.
Yep. This is very true.
But I still don't think William gets her. She 100% gets him, but the thing is, when he's talking to her, his concern is completely omitting the fact that, like, she has self-agency. She understands the position she's in, that she is the side girl, that she comes like the summer and leaves when the summer's over, right? Like, these things she understands, but he doesn't understand that about the world. And at the end, I don't think he quite still got it. If you wanted to make the argument at the end, he understood, sure.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue that point, but like throughout the vast majority of the film, it's almost like he was treating her like she didn't have self-agency when she was the Manic Pixie Dream Girl. She's the only one in the film that has self-agency.
Yep, that's very fair. No, I'd agree with that. I mean, it's not like, yeah, it's definitely not like a. Oh, why am I blanking on characters that should be jumping into my head? We've definitely seen those characters where it's like that instant connection. This is definitely not that. It's he learned to understand her. That was part of the overall plot, even though it was never expressly stated.
Well, through her presence and her being part of his growing experience, she effectively taught him what she was like. This is like when it comes down to, just because we kind of spoke about, not that I'm calling you a finger quotations nice guy, because I know you're the appropriate nice guy, a guy who's nice, not a guy who only does nice things.
Yeah.
For return of affection or something, right? But I'm talking about like the evil nice guy, the one who ruined it for the rest of us, actual guys who are nice. I mean, the scene for them effectively is girls complaining about her boyfriend to a guy. It's not because the relationship is bad. It's because she trusts him enough to tell him about these things.
Yes.
So then the guy goes, you shouldn't be with him, starts treating her like she doesn't have self-agency, like he's controlling her. And the vast majority of the time, that's not the case. There are, of course, abusive boyfriends, but it's rarer than...
yes.
Yeah, it's rare.
Yeah.
So I think that he had his fleeting moment with that, where he was trying to white knight. He was trying to be that white knight simp, that nice guy.
Yeah.
And she was like, nah.
Yeah.
That's not how the real world goes. I'm here of my own accord. And that's what kind of beer was it? Was the defining line of that.
So, like, that is definitely the I think the best part, where like she goes and shows her agency to William in a way that he understands.
Yeah.
Finally. With that being said, I think she knows she was a side piece, but when she talks about being retired, and I know they kind of joke through that.
It's because she was retired from stealing trucks.
What I really think it is I think in her mind she was, because there are some lines throughout where they do make it seem like, as far as she knows, he is done with Leslie.
Yeah.
And that is said throughout. So I actually do think it came out as a shock to her in such a way, and that's shown with the music and everything, and with her reaction in New York.
See, my take on that whole thing. So I think the most disruptive thing that could have occurred for Penny Lane was the introduction of William, someone she could truly express to. I feel she was retired until an honest force came into her life, and because he was trying to see the good sides of Russell, even though intrinsically in the love triangle, he's an opponent, right? Yeah. He's the antagonist of the triangle. I think that William inadvertently sparked some things.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, so then she begins to, be less pent up, less reserved, and then actually ends up letting herself fall for Russell. I think that's what William's influence was on Penny. You know what? I mean, we've said this before about a lot of movies. I think this movie would have been better if it followed Penny. But it would have been a very different movie.
Yes.
And so the freak out at the end was her with all her barriers down, completely unguarded, and distraught because this honest person in her life who, as far as she can see, was giving everything he got and achieving it, and when she tries the same thing, is effectively shot down.
Well, it's an interesting thing, like, because she didn't know what she wanted. Yep. Is the big thing, and that is actually made expressly clear. Well, again, I like how they do it without spelling it out like so many movies do nowadays. it was like, you knew she was lost isn't quite the right word. Directionless. Because you would always, like, so many times with the films, like, I've made a decision. I'm going to do this grandiose thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you could tell it was just, kind of showboating, kind of something she might want to do at some point. And in the end, the one dream that she does follow when she picks that up is going to Morocco. And again, that's where some of this genuineness from her character comes from. It's like, I think she genuinely would have loved to go to Morocco with William. Like, again, not meaning anything's coming from it.
I think at the end, yes, but I think she was just saying it like she said anything at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's just the influence from growing close to William.
Yeah.
Made that the final one that she actually followed through on.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I just want to see William and Polexia get married.
It really... that ship has sailed, hey?
Ah, it's the only correct ship.
It's so funny because, like, she had a moment with him.
Yeah.
And he was like, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, snap.
Yep.
The objectively correct choice.
Yep. And now she's in Europe with Deep Purple, was it?
Yeah. Talk about living like a rock star, though.
Yeah.
His first time was just like with 3 beautiful women.
Right? Oh, I just love that. It's like, yeah, we've taken you across the country, but the only thing we didn't do was get you laid. I mean, just not saying word. Just like,
really?
Oh, I love that.
I did like I like how there was some redemption for Russell. Because throughout the film you like felt like he was trying to be honest. And that he actually did appreciate having William around. It wasn't just because he liked him as a tag-along, or he thought that he could get something from him. It was that he felt like he could be honest. So every time they go to do an interview, if he can get something related, he actually says something genuine.
Yes.
And it's the only genuine thing you see until the end of the film.
Well, I think it's really interesting because, like, I mean, so it goes back to that idea of what's real, what's fake, what's the marketing versus all of this. And it's like Russell doesn't know how to be honest about it, but wants to be. Like, and that again is expressed very well in the house party scene. No one goes on about how real something is so much unless they know that it's not. Then you have that foiled with Jason Lee's character Jeff. Being like, nope, I know this is the enemy. And even he's genuine in what he says, but he's measured in what he's saying because, the journalist is the enemy.
That's so funny because, like, he was trying to sound cool to the journalists, and then at the end of the bus stop scene part, he was like I sound like a D-bag. I sound like an amateur.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's what was raw about the story, right?
Yeah. But then there's other things, like he's just got these, I don't know, some of my favorite lines is like, yeah, no, the popular stuff generally is the best stuff. And when you're saying you don't want to be popular, that's just because you're
a coward.
You're a coward. And like, I like that take on things. I mean, I know outside of our recording, we have definitely talked about the idea of selling out and such, and like you have to at some point.
Yeah, get your bag.
Yeah. And I think he's very real about that. And like he understands Jason Lee's character has a much better understanding of the dynamic of the band. Even as they're tearing apart, he's like, yes, we are at our throats, but this is not a bad thing. Like, I mean, again, look at Fleetwood Mac. They hated each other, but man, their music is good.
You see them? Drugs.
Um, and I think it's interesting because, yeah, William ends up bringing Russell back to reality.
Yeah.
Like, he was a rock that people didn't know they needed.
Well, it's because they were living in a dishonest world where it's all showboating and theatrics.
Yeah.
When you introduce something that is honest, you find yourself being honest.
Yeah.
Is probably why people keep confiding in me random things. Maybe I'm an honest dude. Hey, ladies, I'm honest.
He's really good at faking it.
Hey. You don't slander me.
No.
I got your back. You don't slander me.
I'm sorry, I take it back. I feel really bad for saying that. I don't even know why I did.
Because you were trying to be clever and funny, and then...
Yeah, and that one just did not work in any way, shape, or form, and I feel terrible. I'm sorry.
It's because I didn't yes-and it.
It really is.
Yeah.
But...
intentionally shot down the joke.
No, that's fine. I'll take it. You know what? Yeah, I'll take it.
One thing that I could have done without, not that I'm like one of those people who are like, no, you can't have any gay jokes in a movie. But the whole like drummer thing in the playing, just like the last thing that said is, I'm gay, and then all of a sudden it's flattened out. Like there was no comedic timing to it. It barely even emitted a chuckle from me. It wasn't clever. It was something that you would expect from like a Lampoon movie.
Well, again, like the only thing I can think is like, okay, so there's some autobiographical aspects to this. So maybe that actually was a thing that happened and included as such. But I mean, it's also like literally the only thing he says, which is forgettable.
Yeah. Well, and that's what makes the joke sour, especially when everything else was like intrinsically woven and situational. Like all like how comedy is like shining a light on the actual world, and then all of a sudden you just throw in this like I'm gay. It's like clever, slapstick, clever.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's also like about the time that the movie started actually getting back on pace for me.
Yeah. Well, as I said, like it was that second climactic moment, right? Like that was the part where we are going to start winding it down. Yeah, that part is it's there.
My complaint is it was so off kilter.
Yeah.
It didn't suit the rest of the movie, and it was like glaringly out of place.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? I could, like, even the like I hit a kid, I don't even know if he's alive thing, made sense because you know this is a D-bag manager. Like, it's on point for the character.
Yeah, it's on point for the drummer to like playing with sticks.
Oh. Clever, but cut in post.
Yep.
But like I'm not waiting for like LGBT people here. I'm just objectively it wasn't a joke that landed well.
And that's why I think it was meant to be more of that it makes me think that this probably was tied to the autobiography aspect more than anything else.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I feel good about the ending. How it ended up. Because as soon as we came down from the plane, once we were grounded again, that's when the story started picking up more for me. And the storylines were clear. You could see the relationships between everyone. And we actually followed through to the various resolutions. So all our threads got tied off at the end, which was really nice. And brought me back to that place where I was in the beginning, where I'm like, this is a fantastic movie. I'm enjoying this movie. I got to come back there, which was important for me because I went from liking the movie to wanting to like the movie.
Yeah.
And that's a bad place to be.
Well, and that, it's... Again, I think that's something just to speak to Cameron Crowe's filmmaking. Because we have both watched movies where it's like, I liked this, and then something happened and we can't get back into it. And the fact that you can, like, again, it's even with that, like, as you say, that mess in the middle, all of the threads in that middle also get resolved. Like, it's not, nothing's left hanging. There's, again, an efficiency in the cinematography aspects.
Yeah, and that I wouldn't use the term hard carried, but I would definitely say carried the middle of the movie. Was the cinematography, the audio choices, and Kate Hudson's acting.
Yeah,
that delivery was great. So I mean, like, we don't really rate movies, but I would say people should see this film. I wouldn't call it generation defining, but I see that it could have been.
Yeah. It's also kind of nice seeing Jason Lee be serious.
Well, I mean, like, our comedians are always great when they do serious roles.
Right? It's like the only Will Ferrell movie I like is when he's serious.
Good Will Hunting, Robin Williams.
When our photo, Robin Williams.
Rest in peace, Robin Williams.
Yeah. Also, rest in peace, Philip Seymour Hoffman. This is relevant.
Rest in peace, Alia.
Rest in peace, Alia.
Rest in peace, Wayne Static of Static X. Was once in a band with Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins.
Man, that blows my mind.
Anyways, good movie. I see all the reasons why you would love this movie. Yeah. And though I do not share in those particular vibrations that would make you like emotionally attuned to this film,
yeah,
I see why they're great.
Yeah.
Just theme?
Yeah, we'll theme.
I mean, that's a good ending.
Yeah.